Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Alex.
Um, People are starting to join as we speak. Maybe we'll keep it low for a while, 2 more minutes for more people to join.
Yeah,
And then we'll start.
sounds good.
Okay, now should be as good a time as any. Um, for anyone who couldn't make it live, you're probably watching a recording of this, which we're happy to share. So welcome, everyone. I'm happy to co-host this webinar with copywriter Zoe Barnett, and we're trying to do a deep dive now into copywriting and design and helping photographers out there with both and how they can work together and mistakes we're seeing on websites. And um, I just want to preface, as I've spoken to Zoe about this is not meant to be overly scripted. This is not a formal presentation. We're trying to keep this conversational, but also as actionable as possible. And yeah, maybe for anyone joining in now, you know the drill. You've been to other webinars before. You can use the Zoom chat here to type in to say where you're from or what your specialty is, just so we have a sense of who's watching this now live. And maybe we can also tailor some of our responses to that. Um, hey, John.
Hey there, guys.
Nice to see you in here. Okay. We're meant, John, just so you know, we're meant to cover a few topics. At first, that's how we thought about this, and then have you join as well and ask you a few questions and share our screen and all of that. If you're okay to stay on the webinar till then. If you're in a
Yeah.
hurry, let us know and we'll move things around.
No, yeah, no, I blocked off the time, so happy to be here.
Perfect. For anyone else watching this, this is John Schlia, one of our clients recently, and we'll share a great use case, an example of a website and his experience working with us and all of that. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. So with that kind of intro out of the way, I'll let us introduce ourselves. Zoe, I'll let you be first.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, everybody. So, as Alex has explained, my name is Zoe Barnett. I am a website and SEO copywriter working with creative entrepreneurs, service-based businesses, and go-to brands. So, real leaders in industries. I'm based in the UK, but I work with clients across the globe. So as a copywriter, it's pretty self-explanatory what I do. I'm a words person, but it's not just any old words. I create words that are strategic. And by that, I mean, because I know that word gets thrown around all the time, they are the kind of words that are going to make sure that you show up in the right places, connect with the right people, attract the right people, engage the right people, and essentially convert the right people into those lovely leads and sales that you want to make in your business. So that is what I do in a nutshell.
Perfect, Zoe. I am a web designer and I work exclusively with photographers. I've been doing that for 16, 17 years or something like that. And I started out as a photographer myself. It was out of college. I studied computer science. I didn't want a comfy office job in IT. I took the risk to shoot weddings and to try to do my own photo studio and to sell travel stock photography at a semi-amateur level, so to speak. But it was a struggle. So I kind of learned those a bit of the struggles of trying to make ends meet as a photographer in the beginning. But my computer science background helped me build a website for myself, build one for a photographer I knew, and it snowballed from there. And my camera is now gathering dust in the closet. And I've been building websites for photographers exclusively since then, and related services beyond that, consulting, SEO work. I don't do copywriting, and I need to sometimes collaborate with copywriters, and here we are. Good. So we want to start off with this. We'll try to head quickly into something very actionable that anyone watching this can implement on their website. But we want to start off with just a few minutes on kind of the mindset approach to all of this and how we think that copywriting and design should be paired and they can work together on a photography website. Because they both have the same goal, to try to make a great website. And what does a great website mean? It's a website that gets you results, sales, inquiries, print sales, whatever that may be for each photographer. And both the design and copywriting have that goal, and they, in my view, they help each other. Obviously, the design helps to highlight the copywriting, the brand messaging, through presenting it well, typography, white space, all of that, to make sure that the copywriting shines well enough and transmits the message of the website, and vice versa. Copywriting supports some of the design goals of the website. You get the hierarchy of the content, you get how a user flows through the website, microcopy, the small labels and buttons, the navigation menu, which is critical. All of that touches on copywriting as well. So they kind of help each other. How do you see it, Zoe?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a funny one for me because when I started off, I started off in quite a corporate background. So like you said, you were dodging the office. I actually went into that more traditional kind of going to get a good job and sit there. And I was in a marketing department. So I was in quite a generalist marketing role. And I remember that copywriters and designers were almost, we did have to work together, but we sat on different tables, and the copywriters would get the Word documents out and they would type the copy, and the designers would do their thing, and they were all like the lovely creative people. And I actually remember a point in my career just before I went freelance, I remember thinking, why am I writing copy in a Word document? Like that's not what a website is. A website is an experience. It moves around. People move around it. And the funny thing is I think we get so kind of obsessed with this idea that we have a web page, we have a home page, we have an about page, we have a services page, that we then translated that into a Google Doc or a Word doc. We'd have a page of copy. But when I stood back and thought, actually, I can't create great copy like this. So I started, my own little light bulb moment was to kind of rip up that process and start drawing out copy, like creating it within a wireframe. So I could say, you know, this copy is your hero copy. This is your bold impact copy. This is your button copy. This is your little bit of copy here. This bit wants to act as like a little bit of a graphic, like a label. And it all kind of came together like that. And it really, like when I say it was a light bulb moment, I kind of thought, why is everybody writing copy in Word documents? So that's really where it came together for me.
And I think you achieved something else from doing it like that in a wireframe document. And I've seen such an example. You kind of also think about the design a bit when you're writing the copy. So then you match the tone of the writing with the style, the visual elements, and you kind of get that more cohesive brand message experience, something like that.
Yeah.
And also one thing I wanted to add was both design and copy, our specialties, kind of both matter for SEO, I think, which is hugely important. Both are SEO. They help with SEO, with how people engage with the website, how people draw the website draws in more traffic. So yeah.
I think it was 2021 when Google brought in user experience as a key part of their ranking factor. And obviously user experience is copy and design. You know, we've said this many times among between each other that, you know, you could have the most beautiful website that looks amazing, but if the copy's rubbish and it doesn't make much sense and it's not cohesive and people don't know what it's actually saying to them, then you're going to lose them. But equally, you could hire the best copywriter in the world. It's me, by the way. You could hire that person and that person could then DIY their website, and maybe they wouldn't know how to, you know, make the copy work in the design, and it could absolutely fall flat. In both instances, you could have a certain level of success, but in terms of the user experience, it's always going to be better if you raise both the bars, and obviously that feeds into your SEO.
Yeah, and just to be perfectly honest, the quality of the photos themselves obviously matter most. If the photos are subpar, no website, no copywriting can help raise that too much. But if they are good enough, or they're excellent or killer photos, then the website with the copy and the design well done are kind of a multiplier, or should be like that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a cruel irony in creative industries that you can get really people that are really wonderful at what they do. They're extremely talented, but unfortunately, when it comes to certain marketing elements like website design and how they position themselves, their messaging, their brand voice, their copy, right down to the technicalities of the copy, if that falls flat and doesn't align with how talented they are, then they don't get out there. And then almost the less talented person, the person that might not be as fantastic as they are, because they've maybe invested in, or they've worked on, they've put the energy into the copy and the design and other marketing things, they rise above them. So sometimes, unfortunately, your talent isn't enough to get you in front of the right people.
Yeah. Let's move out of the theoretical forum for now, and let's try to make this more actionable for photographers. We've thought of some mistakes that both of us usually see on websites. Let's start with content mistakes. Zoe, I'll let you take the lead on this one. What you've noticed over time, I'll try to chime in at the points that fall into my jurisdiction as well, and stuff I've noticed in terms of content, but you're obviously more experienced here. And then we'll share some website user experience mistakes that I have seen, and you can chime in there for photographers, and we'll try to give everyone tips and mistakes on what you see. So you can take it away.
Okay, cool. So yeah, when it comes to website copy, so the content on your site, one of the biggest mistakes that I see, and I'm sure you'll agree, Alex, is overloaded homepages. So we're going to start right from the start. Overloaded homepages mean that you've got too much going on, you've got too much copy, your messaging is not very clear. You might have, you know, a bit of copy here, and then it says welcome, and then you've got more copy here, and you're trying to say everything on your homepage. What we ideally want to see, in the term we talk about something actionable, is to really pare your homepage back and to remember that your homepage is not the be all and end all. Your homepage is designed to give people a clear message of what you do and who you do it for, and the value that you give, but also to give people kind of a starting point. You want to entice them in, you want to welcome them in. You don't need to say welcome though. That was one of my pet peeves. But you want to give them enough to kind of want to think, right, I'm in the right place, I've got a good vibe here, I'm going to explore. So yeah, I think that's kind of mistake number one, is overloaded homepage. A giveaway is usually big blocks of text, lengthy bios on the homepage, lengthy information about your services page. Like I said, you know, really your homepage should be a sample of what you offer, but still with a really clear opportunity to say what your value is to your ideal client.
I agree with what you said about the homepages in particular. Oftentimes I see websites where the homepage has become a dumping ground of all the possible services that the photographer added over time. Nothing was taken out over the years, just more coming in. Plus, like you pointed out, the vague welcome to this website, welcome here, or be too creative with the copy, with the navigation menu items, with you didn't know what they mean really. It wasn't, it's some clever way of phrasing them, overly clever, or the opposite. Business talk, business lingo, salesy wording to try to, I don't know, it wasn't a match with their own specialty. I can't get an expression out of my head that salesy is an anagram of sleazy.
Yeah,
Something like that. Yeah, so people can smell that a mile away. Yeah. Anything else you've noticed on websites?
Yeah, I think that links into, you know, we touched on messaging and you know, whether you want to come across, how you want to come across, and you don't want to come across salesy. You also don't want to come across maybe like overly, I always use the word whimsical. It's something that I see a lot in wedding photography, you know, kind of very romantic and overly poetic. Whilst that might be part of your brand voice, we still want to make sure that you're really clear about the value that you deliver, and you can still have like you can still be really creative with your copy, but you can still be really clear. So a big one for me is the inconsistent messaging. So it's kind of starting somewhere, and then as you go through your website, so maybe you say one thing on your homepage, but then on your about page, you say something else, and your services page, because you've just added one on last week and the other two are from 2 years ago, they sound different and your message is different. So that's a really big one. And it happens because you're a growing business, you're changing, you're developing, you're not doing anything wrong. It's actually really organic that things will change as you add things onto your website. But I'd say it's really important to kind of take a step back and make sure that that message is clear throughout your website. Because when you start to get that kind of piecemeal approach to your messaging, that is when you can confuse. And, you know, it's a really cliche expression in the marketing world, but if you confuse, you lose.
Yeah, and with inconsistencies throughout the website, across the pages, a big one for me was the use of I versus we in copyright. I'm sure you've noticed that, and just a single note to me, it's, I know some of them are solo photographers. They're not a team, it's not a studio, and they're using we, and I think that just is a bit disingenuous. Maybe I'm overstepping, but it's confusing visitors thinking that it's a team, and maybe they'll not get the one-to-one connection with a solo photographer, especially when selling services, personal services, photo shoots, and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that. I think people tend to do it. They've almost been. I know, like when I was at school, and I actually did business studies at an A level here in the UK, and it was always kind of like, to make yourself sound bigger, you'd say we, you talking like this team kind of plural first person language. But actually, as you get into the world of small business and micro businesses, which a lot of photographers are, is we actually want to be seeing a lot more authenticity and honesty about the fact that it is you running the ship, and it's you who's going to be doing the photography. Because at the end of the day, that's what your ideal clients want to feel assured, is that they know that is the person that's going to be coming and doing the shoot, not some associate. If it is an associate and that's how your business works, then great, that's the opportunity to use we, and that is the opportunity to be transparent about that throughout.
And talk to me, Zoe, about call to action buttons, which are a pet peeve of mine. And I would have never thought to ask a copywriter about them, because in other collaborations, none considered call to action buttons. It was my job as the web designer to use buttons throughout the website to guide people from the starting point, usually the home page, to the end point, usually the contact page. But you provided those, or you thought of those. How do you see people making mistakes in that department?
Yeah, so obviously the most common mistake with call to action buttons is forgetting them, so not putting them in places where they really need to be. I think we sometimes assume that people know what to do, and obviously we don't want to call your audience stupid. They're not stupid, they're smart people, but we live in this era now where we've got 1,000,001 distractions. Okay, there's lots of things going on, and if we are on a website and we're trying to do something like check something out, we want to navigate the site really easily, and we want it to be very clear. Likewise, if we actually want to reach out or book a session, we want it to be super easy for us. So yeah, the biggest mistake is people not doing them at all. After that, we have misplaced ones. So a lot of call to action buttons are put in places where actually it doesn't really make much logical sense. I've seen them on the homepage, and obviously every website has a different strategy, or there'll be similarities, but I've worked on certain client projects, and it will have a great hero message, really clear, and then it will ask, the call to action will be like, book a discovery call. Well, you tell me what potential client is going to read that hero copy, not go around your site and go, oh yeah, I'm going to book a discovery call. It's not the most likely action. The most likely action would be to explore services, for example. So it's little things like that that can really affect the user experience. And then I think the last one is not personalizing them. So not bringing the brand voice into the buttons. Buttons can be fun.
Yeah, perfect. It shows you're passionate about your work if you say that. And I agree with what you said with the main hero call to action on the homepage. People are first-time visitors to the website are not ready to book a call yet, or to send an inquiry, because they don't trust you yet. They don't trust the photography yet. They want to see more. Okay, what else do you think is missing from homepages in general, from websites in general? I'm thinking testimonials. Photographers are selling themselves, selling services, so they need trust to get the sale, basically, and testimonials should help with that. I'm seeing a lack of content in general for SEO, for humans as well. The websites, especially for photography websites. You work with other industries as well, but for photography websites, just a single full screen slideshow and a button, or a gallery page, a photography gallery page, a portfolio page, just a grid of images, the title, and that's it, and a contact me button. Maybe no text, no gallery description, nothing to give Google stuff to digest, basically.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think there's a lot of missed opportunity when it comes to SEO. I think SEO sometimes has this appearance that it's this kind of like technical thing that you have to do in the background. But actually, when you simplify it, if you really just drill it down, it's about, again, creating a really good user experience. So most users are not going to feel confident enough to reach out if they just see a load of glossy photos. They might really like the photos, but if they don't really know what's involved, what's the price point, what's this person like, who is this person, what's their approach, that's usually not going to be enough to tip them over the edge. If, then they've got competitors out there that are giving that information. So yeah, SEO is a lot about keywords and ranking in the right places, but then when the right people get onto your site, they need that reassurance. So that is why it's also really a human experience.
Okay, completely agree. Before we move on to something else, I just wanted to, time flies, and I just want to briefly touch upon addressing prices on a photography website, because I'm sure when you work with photographers, you have to handle that somehow as well. I'll lead with my stance on the topic, and then you can give me your opinion. Sometimes photographers can set fixed prices on the website if they basically sell a productized service. It's a fixed session fee. Other times it makes sense not to display fixed pricing because it depends on each client. It's basically some sort of value-based pricing. But even if that's the case, not addressing prices at all, I think it's a mistake. It's a missed opportunity, and they should mention it somehow, either by saying prices start at, just to give it a load to filter maybe cheap clients, or to say prices range from this to that, and they depend on this, just to see how it's considerate. Or even I've seen better examples than that, like my prices depend on this, and I have budget options because of this. Get in touch to learn more. It's something more information about what the pricing depends on, which shows you have experience, you're considerate. How do you handle this sensitive topic when you work with clients?
So I think this is where we really distinguish between photographers who are just starting out, so maybe, doing a bit of freelance photography on the side, and photographers who are, I always say, like a tipping point. So, that their business has grown and they're at that point where they're, working full time in it, and they're wanting to take it further and maybe grow it, or, essentially charge more for their services because they're renowned. When you're starting out, it's very tempting to just not put any prices on because you're thinking, oh, I'm going to test the waters, see who gets in touch, I don't know my pricing yet. You're probably not confident in your pricing yourself. When you're established, putting in those starting prices, even if you can't put fixed packages in place, like you said, filter out the people that aren't quite right for your business. But there's still a nervousness around that, because you think, especially if you're at that tipping point and you're elevating your position. It's like, oh, well, that seems like a lot, maybe. This is where copy comes in. So copy comes in, I always break it down to kind of the emotional buyer persona and the analytical buyer persona. And usually you've got a bit of two in people. So as long as you're really clear on what the transformation is, so the emotional side of things, and you're really clear for the analytical buyer, so what is it that they're actually getting for their investment, as long as you're clear on that in your copy, your pricing probably feels really comfortable to put it on there, whatever that price point is. So it's just about making sure that your pricing is underpinned by the right kind of information, and that is really where your copy comes in. And then, of course, as we've said all throughout this, is the design. So, the website design, the website experience, that also links into kind of making your pricing feel really comfortable.
Perfect segue, Zoe. So let's move on to that now. What mistakes we usually see in terms of design and user experience on websites? And design is basically an art form. So when a website is not great and it makes design mistakes, we just put it in the bucket of it being ugly. whatever that means. It's an ugly website, and that can happen, in my experience, for many reasons. Maybe the website is simply old. It's been neglected for a long time. It's out of fashion, or the photographer, or it's the website is newer, but the photographer doesn't have the design sense, the vision, the skills to make it beautiful. It's an art form. It happens. It's a completely different skill to take photos, composition editing, and to design a website. Or they have both, but they don't know how to master a tool, a website builder, a theme or template. All of those can lead to a website having, not necessarily being ugly, maybe that was too much, but not being polished enough. Everything is misaligned. It's not consistent. It uses too many fonts all over the place. I don't know, functionality problems, alignments, white space, all of that makes it not be polished and presentable enough, and it doesn't put the photos in a good light, not to mention the copywriting. Generally speaking, though, so if I were to make an 80-20 analysis, is just that: make it more minimalistic, simplify as much as you can, add plenty of white space, not have everything be cluttered, especially the header area where the all-important navigation menu is. Try to align elements to the left edge of the website and to the right, so it's all pleasing to the eye as you scroll down. Consistency with colors, have that 1-2 accent colors that you use throughout. And then typography, which highlights copywriting. On average, websites have the font size too small. On average, I would say it's barely readable. Sometimes you have to squint to read it. Or I'm sure, Zoe, you've seen the gamut of typography mistakes, like line height issues too close together, or stuff like that. So tell me what you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, my kind of experiences, again, you could hire the best copywriter in the world, but if it's not translated into the design, the typography is what will make your copy shine, quite simply. And that boils down to, yeah, of course, the sizing. So people need to be able to read it, but also, how, what words are in italics, what words are bolded, the positioning of words, that all is part of the readability. So yeah, that's really where I come in on it.
And seeing long blocks of text without breaking them down into separate paragraphs and using bullet lists just when it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what I said at the start about how, it's not a Google Doc, it's not a document, even though it's a web page, we don't read it like a page of a book. It's an experience. So kind of one of my favorite tips is to throw out all those kind of prose and essay writing tips that you may have learned whilst you were going through school and college and university, and kind of be really like, break it right down. We want small paragraphs, small section, not paragraphs, sections of text. We want bullet points. We want to use headings. We really want to keep it like, I love when you said about like the white space. The white space is so important when I'm writing the copy. We want to see that white space. We want it to breathe so that I can go from point to point to point and scan over.
Yeah, scanning over. The website should be skimmable just to get the information quickly, because we're living in this distraction era. Why spend so much time on a photographer's website when TikTok is waiting on your phone? Now back to use the greater concept of user experience on the website. I'll try not to spend, maybe I won't spend time now on other obvious factors that make a good user experience on the website, like website performance and mobile friendliness. They should be a given these days. The navigation menu, the all-important navigation menu, how It needs to be in a familiar place that people are accustomed to at the top or maybe on the left, and nothing else. It needs to not be too long, not have 10 plus menu items. Contacts should be last in the navigation menu because people expect it to be there. Drop down menus if you must, but not overwhelm people with 3 levels of drop down menus and mistakes like that. And on top of that, there's a whole range of UX mistakes possible. Background colors are usually a no-no on photography websites. Stick with white or black. It's a decision there. Email me if you're considering using a dark background theme for the website. It's a fit for some specialties. Use broken link checker tools. There are free ones out there. It still happens even on important inquiry buttons on websites. It's still a broken link. People just forgot about it from 2 years ago. Stuff like that. Splash pages, I hate them. When I go to a website and I see a full screen image and just a single button that says enter here, I close it. It's so annoying and it's such a bad thing for user experience. Yeah, I could go on and on here. So maybe Zoe, let's move a bit more into your jurisdiction now and talk about some trends you might have seen in the copywriting space, because you have a lot of experience. Maybe you've seen some shifts in recent years.
Yeah, so I think the most obvious one, and I think we hear this word brandished around all the time, it's storytelling. Okay, so storytelling is something that I get clients come to me all the time and saying, "Oh, I want to do some storytelling. I want to tell my story." What does that actually mean, though, in practical terms for your website copy? And I think this is where it's easy to get tripped up. So storytelling isn't about telling your story, even though it sounds like that. It's actually, when it comes to your website, it's about understanding what is the story of your ideal client, understanding what your story is as well, and how they come together. Because what you essentially want to do, if you're going to use storytelling in your website copy, is you want to align yourself with your ideal client. It's kind of, in simplest terms, it's kind of a feeling of they get me. They know what I'm dealing with, what I'm I would say struggling with always. It's not always struggles and pain points. Sometimes it can be a motivation. It's something that you want to do, something positive. You know, myself as an example, I recently had some brand photography, and that was a motivation. That was something exciting. But it's about understanding what journey they're on and where your story fits into their story. A really practical tip with this is to focus on micro moments. Okay, so you're not, for example, on your about page, you're not going to tell your whole story. You're not going to say their story. You're not going to say, you're fed up with this and you're doing that and every day you're doing this. It's more about zoning in on the little things, the little mini stories that punctuate your ideal client's life. A really good example, I recently wrote copy for a maternity photographer here in the UK, and we did a lot of work on how in the first year of motherhood you have these moments where obviously it's really difficult, but I say that as a mum myself. But moments where you think, oh my gosh, this is amazing, like this tiny human is mine and it's 3 o'clock and I'm absolutely exhausted, but this is what I've achieved and they're thriving and they're doing well. And we really focused in on those micro moments to make her copy align with her ideal client. So that is one of the biggest trends at the moment. Like I said, my biggest tip is don't think of it as writing your story or writing their story. It's about picking little micro moments in your copy that bring you together.
And that makes it all more relatable and builds the trust to sell services. They're not buying a product off the shelf. They're wanting to engage with you as a photographer, so they need to establish trust. And yeah, I think that helps. Yeah. Zoe, what about SEO, voice search, anything in that department? Because it sounds around the corner.
Yeah, so SEO is always in fashion, obviously. I think I started my career in marketing back in 2013, and it's like just been going off since then. I think it's gone through some evolution. So I think when it comes to actual website copy, it's about really understanding that you need those keywords, but you don't want to keyword stuff. So, there was a lot of old hat techniques a few years back where people used to stuff a load of keywords in the same color text as the background and hide it and all this awful stuff that would get you, Google would not be very happy with you. SEO nowadays is a lot more subtle. So I think it starts with your website copy. That's about getting the really good foundations in place. It's about understanding how you can do it so you make it better for the actual human experience. So one thing that I absolutely love in website copy is having really great like headlines and hero sections, but having tags of keywords that act as what we call eyebrow copy. So it goes above kind of the main thing that you're saying, that signposts to your user what you're talking about from a keyword perspective, but it also gets those keywords in for Google.
Perfect.
And it's also just about approaching it long term. It's not just about your web copy. It's obviously about your ongoing content as well.
Okay, makes complete sense. Let's now bring in John. John, welcome to the call.
Thank you.
We thought it would be a great idea, since we're talking about both, and we all three recently worked on your website, to bring you in and tell your story and your experience through this whole thing. Maybe for anyone watching, just tell us a bit about your specialty and where you're from.
Sure.
And then I'll do some screen sharing and show some examples, and we'll talk all three throughout.
Okay. Well, I feel special because I'm the matchmaker that brought you two together. So I'm happy that this, is coming out of that. So this is like my 20th year in business, and I'm kind of in a smallish medium market. So I've had to do a bunch of different stuff. I did weddings for 18 years. And then, and I loved it, but it just, it was time to end. So I really started to niche down and just do portraits. If anybody goes to my website, they'll see that just portraits encompasses headshots, families, pets, and some other things. So it's still quite a bit. I still do events too, which, I had an event last night, and I'll tell you guys something that happened there related to the website. But yeah, so I needed to clean up my website. I was taking notes as you were talking, so I'm sorry people had to look at the top of my bald head. But Zoe, you said that things, can get inconsistent over time. And it's like you guys were just like talking about my old website. So it's very funny, because that's why I came to both of you, was to just clean that stuff up. And I can talk more about that process too, if you want. But yeah, so that's it.
Cool. Here's your current website. We'll maybe touch on that a bit. I'm sure anyone watching this will be immediately maybe struck by the colorful, fun nature of it. But let's start from the beginning. These are some screenshots from the old website.
Oh,
basically.
good. I'm glad you saved that.
Yeah, just to show kind of a before. So this was the homepage. This was the about page you had. There were still, I think, a lot of traces here of your fun personality and goal for this. But obviously, this was the old website. What made you want to rebuild it? Why not stick with the old website? What wasn't working? Let's start there.
So like you said also, Zoe, that organically the website's going to grow. So I've been following Alex for 10 years now, and then I finally just this year I was like, all right, just stop stalking him and just like hire him, have him do the work for you. Because I was getting your newsletter and I was trying to piecemeal and do some of the things that you would say in there. I'm a photographer. I'm not a web designer. I'm not great with layout, as you were saying, like it's one thing to be able to compose a picture. It's another thing to do the layout. So things just weren't aligned. some pages things were aligned, here, other pages things were aligned out here. It didn't make sense. The original website the copy was written by the designer too, which wasn't awesome because it was more written towards Google and not towards humans. So as I would read through it, I don't know, it sounded salesy, like you said, which is also sleazy. So so I just knew it was time to hire both of you. And I mean, like, I'm looking into everybody that's watching this, just hire Alex and Zoe, just do it. Because like I said, I followed Alex for so long and finally realized, all right, John, you need help with this. And then Zoe, I don't know if I told you this, but like, I looked at 20-ish other copywriters before. Like, I'm a chronic shop arounder. Like, when I buy a TV, I like, do a lot of research. So when I was looking for a copywriter, I heavily researched it. I tried to find somebody that would fit with my brand voice, again, because I am more of a vibrant, I mean, like, I got yellow t-shirt, look at the pattern on my shirt, like I'm not a quiet, subdued guy. Look at my face.
You have a purple face here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm heavily influenced by Andy Warhol. Like, so that's where that came from. That stems from a college project that just kind of carried over. But
and John, that's a good segue. When we started speaking about the design of the new website, we were, I think, both drawn to the Anna Pumer. It's a UK photographer style website, which is, again, fun, colorful, graphics everywhere. And I'm loading up now a few other examples just to show kind of the design mood board. The inspiration for your website was something like this.
Yeah. I feel like Anna and I would be like fast friends, like, yeah. So her style is awesome, and she's more geared towards weddings, and I'm bringing all this fun to boring corporate headshots, So, like I was saying last night, I was at an event, it was for the Chamber of Commerce, and this president and chief operating officer of a company said, "Oh, John, you're John, right? I was just on your website." So, like, for my website to stand out to these people that are running these companies, like, that's huge. And that speaks volumes to you two, for the work that you put into it. So thank you again for that.
John, we didn't bring you here to sing our praises so much, but we'll take it.
That's, like, I wouldn't, I would still have my old website if it wasn't for you two. So, like,
maybe you'll have a different website, but a worse one.
No, I wouldn't have done anything. Yeah, it would be worse, but I wouldn't have done anything.
Okay, so you started first working, you try to work with a different copywriter, I think.
Yeah, so, I narrowed it down to this other copywriter and Zoe, and I even told Zoe, I'm like, you're just a little out of my price range. I'm going to have to go with this other person. I went with the other person. It was a mistake. The copy just didn't resonate. So then I went back to, groveling and crawling back to Zoe. I'm like, all right, I'm going to stretch my budget, because we had a video interview, and like, I knew it was just going to work. I should have just gone with you, and I'm very sorry that I didn't. But in the end, like, it worked out, beautifully, and I'm so happy. And thanks for pulling this up. This is a nice.
This is a screenshot of the previous copywriter work. This is anonymized.
Okay.
And it's, I think you asked me an opinion at some point of what I think about this. And it felt, I'm not a native English speaker and not a copywriter, but it felt boring to me, so to speak, compared to those Anna Pumer style fun websites, which all have had the headline, the hero message, also vibrant and fun and talking about that personality. And this one was just, let's take a good photo of you. It wasn't, and it mentioned a lot of the negatives. It wasn't fun and positive.
That's exactly what it is. And I think, it's okay to have, point out negative things in your copy. We don't have to be all like toxic positivity all the time. But reading that, it's the very traditional kind of pain point marketing, which I think we've all moved on from that. We don't want to make people feel even worse. We want to, if we're gonna we could have a bit of a joke with somebody and be playful with it. But I think that for me, that introductory paragraph needs to be really positive, and it just makes me feel a bit. And also, people don't think I don't take good photos. You don't stand there and go, oh, I don't take good photos. You're actually thinking, oh God, where do I put my arm? And do I look weird when I smile? And oh, I don't know if this top was the right top for me to wear. I think it's about, again, those micro moments that come in. So maybe it feels a little bit static.
Yeah, and John, you emailed me at that point, and I quote, this is unscripted. You said that helps solidify my decision. There's also no strong calls to action. I think this person might be a good copywriter, but not necessarily a conversion copywriter for websites, which is the exact nuance that Zoe was talking about.
Yeah,
and then you
that's
started
good to point out.
Yeah, and then you were starting to work with Zoe, and she started providing copy at first in this sort of wireframe, visual wireframe for the website, which is the first time I've received something like this from a copywriter, because it's also visually laid out somewhat. It's not a final design, obviously. It's not meant for that. It's just an outline of how it could all fit. Let me make this wider so it's more visible.
Yeah, I
with
love that.
some
So
notes. Yeah.
sorry to step on Alex. Like, I love that. So you did your research and you like pulled graphics from my current website that, could still be carried over to the new one. And, and even like that little bit that you got there, like, that's awesome,
Yeah, often times that clients, it's not a case that they need to totally rip up the copy that they've already got. And John, it was very clear with you that obviously we'd met on video call, but I could already get a feel for your brand voice and your message. Like it was there in your copy. It wasn't like a complete, let's burn it down and start again. And it doesn't always need to be that approach. I think this was very much an approach was, there's parts of it already on your existing website. Let's really bring it to the surface.
Yeah.
And
And hitting on brand voice and being there, like, I don't know if I told you this either, but like I tried to use ChatGPT before, and I'm trying to dissuade anybody watching this to use it. Like I inputted, text I'd written to try to make it sound like me, but it wasn't natural. It didn't sound like a human. It didn't sound in the story brand, even if you tell it to do story brand, like it's not going to do it. So don't waste your time with that. Just get a person that knows what they're doing. Get Zoe, get Alex. That's it.
It's fascinating. Just to very quickly interject there, I've done a lot of reading into how AI actually works, how AI is trained, and it is actually trained by real people. So, real people are in there inputting, they're being paid to work and feed information into AI, and that includes creative writing, it includes copywriting for websites, and you just think there's thousands of people across hundreds of thousands of people across the world doing it. But obviously, again, you get that, whilst that's great in a way, you could say, oh, there's a human element to AI, you get that piecemeal approach. You're never going to have something that feels, that is why when you read AI generated content, there's something in your brain that goes, this is AI generated content, because it's everything like put together.
Yeah, when I'm using ChatGPT for something, I'm even asking it to make it sound like it's a human, like it's me, here are source material, make it undetectable as an AI tool source, and it still can't do it. It doesn't have the nuance.
Yeah.
So after, for anyone watching this, even if you end up working with Zoe or not, just to know what to expect from working with a good copywriter, what you're seeing now is not the final document. This is just a wireframe, and it includes conversations with the client, the photographer here, back and forth at some point with comments in here about words, the right choice of words and nuances. But this is not the final document. The final document is this 50-page Google Doc with detailed instructions for what should be the SEO tags, what should be the H1, H2 tags everywhere, where the web designer needs to use bold or italic to highlight, to add nuance to all of this. Call to action buttons, so micro copy, all the headings laid out, everything, all of this for all the main pages in the website, which you agree to work on together. So this is the kind of the best copywriting material I've received from working with copywriters over time. Plus, no one has ever sent me, the web designer, not the client, a Loom video with instructions on how I should interpret the document from Zoe. So this was just excellent.
Yeah, and it's, you know, like you said, I do one for the client as well, because it's really important that the client, throughout, whether you ever did hire me or you hired another copywriter, what you should be looking for is somebody that explains the copy to you, okay, explains how the messaging works, because it's all right a copywriter sending you a Google Doc of copy, but if you don't get it, sometimes you need someone to say, I put this here because of that, I'm putting this mini bio section here because of that, and it just makes the process feel well, you feel informed, you know what your copywriter is doing and why they're doing it, and you know that that's then going to be translated over to the web designer as well, so they work together.
Yeah,
that was great, because we had so many back and forths, you know, and not total revisions, but just, I mean, you're in Britain, I'm in America, you know, there's just different, you know, nuances. And you even said, like, I don't know if you would use this phrase, put in, you know, what you would, you know, so that was great to have that level of input, you know, still have you do most of the work, but still, you know, make it sound like me. That was awesome.
We have one more question, but I think, John, you touched on it a bit, which was just generally what were your fears or concerns before hiring either of us? Obviously, cost was a factor, as it always is, but also how the end result would be, trying to get the message across. What were you thinking before hiring us?
Yeah, I mean, again, because I mean, we all have our individual voices, you know, like I'm not that special. So, you know, to just give up that freedom and have somebody else do it for you is a little nerve-wracking. But again, a good copywriter is going to be able to nail that. I mean, we had the video interview, and then you had a questionnaire too. And, you know, so I uploaded text and stuff there. So that made it easy. And then I was really nervous, Alex, working with you too, because, like, what if I don't like the design? What if it comes back and I hate it and I have to go through all these different revisions? But you nailed it, you know, so that was pretty easy. Even just the little things, like, look at the way you put those two pictures of Sean there, you know, like, it's the same guy too, you know. In my head, I would be like, all right, let's do different ones. But I love that you have his contrasting personality there. You pick those two pictures and just the outline. So just giving up that creative control, because I am a very not controlling, but I don't like giving up the reins. But when you find team members that you can trust and just have do the work, it was great. And I don't know if we're going to get to this, but the whole reason, I guess maybe we got to it before, the reason I wanted to redo the website is I was seeing that people were going on the website and they just weren't converting. They weren't staying on the website long. They weren't booking. Before we got on the call, I just looked at my analytics from the month before we launched and the month after, and there was a 595.2 increase in dwell time. So that's awesome for you guys. People were on there for 21 seconds and now they're on there for almost 2 minutes. So that's huge.
That's huge.
And you know, I mean, we were talking about call to action buttons before, and we peppered in a bunch of different call to action buttons on there, even with different words too, because, like you were saying before, everybody has their own language and things like that. So I feel like, you know, some people say contact me, some people say hit me up, some people say this. So we try to make it speak to everybody and give people lots of different options and opportunities to book with me too. So
to take a gander at your portfolio.
Yeah.
Take
a gander, you know, just, you know, look at it.
Cool. Last question. You said something, you had an event last night related to the website?
Yeah, so that's what I said. The president from that company pulled me aside and he specifically mentioned my website, which is cool. And after it launched too, I had a bunch of events that I was photographing, and people were just giving me all kinds of congratulations on it. So I'm passing those congratulations on to you guys. Great work there.
Perfect.
Yeah,
great.
And I don't, like, you guys didn't pay me to say all this. This is just coming from my heart. Like, I'm just so happy with the work you did. God, I'm like tearing up because I'm so happy about it. How weird is
You
that?
make me cry.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier. Again, like it's hard to give up that control, but then just when you find the right team to do it, it's just magic, and I'm super happy with what came out of it. So thank you. Thank you guys.
Okay, perfect. Let's move on to a few more other topics Zoe and I want to handle. John, you're more than welcome to stick around. You can also chime in to anything if you have thoughts. One topic, Zoe, that we thought about, and John's website is a good example, was that about services, experiences, transformations. I I think what clients are actually buying sometimes from photographers are not services. Everyone is selling services. As competition grows, people have to up their game, so they start providing a good a good experience. This is what a photo session with me looks like. I take care of this. I make you feel comfortable. I help you in that department. But I think that also becomes somewhat commoditized. Everyone now expects to offer to receive a good photo session experience. So I feel the next level on top of that is to connect with those client emotions, what they're actually trying to get from the website. I'll try to load up an example because I just wrote about this, so it's top of mind, and it has copywriting examples, and I'll let you, Zoe, chime in just 1 second to try to bring this in. So this is an article on my website now just about this topic, what clients are actually buying from you. And these are all copywriting examples from websites taken from various websites I know, which is what clients are actually buying. Let me show some examples first, and it's John's website example here as well. But if people look at these screenshots, they can see that they are connecting to what clients actually get from a photo session. They're not getting prints, they're not getting files, they're getting something else. They're getting confidence, they're getting belonging, they're getting all sorts of emotional aspects from it. I've grouped them into some categories here, and then I'll let you go, Zoe. So confidence was one, saving time, saving money, which are all clear benefits for clients. Enduring memories, like cherishing, that's what people are getting from a family photo shoot, for example, not files.
Yeah.
And peace of mind and convenience, relaxing about something. This is all transformational and connecting to the emotions. And I'm sure, Zoe, you know all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it kind of goes across the board. It's what is the transformation, what is the experience that they want to have. I recently worked with a wedding photographer here in the UK, and we did a lot about like bottling up memories. It's like that one special day that you put all that work, and there's so much effort that goes into wedding planning. I'm actually planning my own wedding at the moment, and it's like so much work. When we get there, it's going to be like but having all those family and friends actually there at that point is just, it's very rare that you have all those people in the room. So it's about not just getting photos of you getting married, it's about all your family together. It's about seeing your granddad, maybe your elderly granddad, the one that picked you up from school, being there at the gate, and actually having that as a professional photography. Or I've recently also worked with a content creator for weddings, and that is what people want. It's not just about getting photos of them getting married.
And it's related to actually to the business positioning of the photographer, and they need to know where they sit as a business, and then from that they understand who their target audience is clearly, and then they craft the brand message, the copywriting from that, and then that trickles down to the website design as well in terms of style. Maybe John, I'll try to take advantage that you're still here. How have you thought about this? all that fun aspect, the personality aspect that you wanted to show through the website? How did that?
Yeah, I mean, first example comes up on my family part. I try to hit the pain points and address that. Like, I know parents are always like, my kids are going to misbehave, we're going to put it off, and like, so what? Like, your kids are your kids. Let's capture your kid. Like, when's your kid actually just sitting there smiling? Never. Let's capture them doing their thing. So I think to speak those pain points and turn them into a positive, so that people aren't afraid of those things. I think that's a big plus.
Okay, perfect. And I think that brand message, that emotional connection, obviously needs to sit on the homepage, the hero message, first and foremost. Zoe, let's start with that, because that's the homepage is obviously where people create that first connection with the first-time visitors that we spoke about, and people don't trust you yet. So how do you tackle that when you're starting with a project?
Yeah, so the hero section is obviously going to be the most important bit of copy on your homepage, but also across your other pages as well, because people don't always land on the homepage, especially if they're coming from Google. They might, I know on my own website, people always land on the about page. It just ranks better than everything else. So that hero section, the top bit of your website, is the most important. You want there what I call an impact statement, so something that's going to hook people in, okay, and that's got to really clearly speak to your ideal client. So again, I'm going to use an example of a recent project. So a wedding photographer, we spoke a lot about the authentic photography, natural photography, because her ideal client wasn't more like, there's all different types of wedding photography and wedding types, people, the style of wedding. She knew that her niche was in more like the natural pared back kind of neutrals look, and so you wanted to speak to them. So that hook line was very much about getting people in with a statement that reassured that they were in the right place.
Yeah. Okay. That was a good example, and another one comes to mind, which was actually a decision that John and I needed to take on his website, was how to structure the separate service pages. So John, you have pages for business headshots, event headshots, family photography, pet, you're introducing pet photography, and two more live events, and editorial and commercial service. So you have an array of services that you wanted to showcase on the website. And in terms of information architecture, there were two strategies. One is what you have now, which each service page acts as both a portfolio and an informational page, with pricing, with benefits for the client, with testimonials, and it's what I usually prefer. The alternative, which I've seen on other websites, is portfolio pages just to showcase images, and then a central pricing page or something like that, where you list out pricings for each service. And I think your approach, which of course I'm biased because I build it that way, I lean towards that, is because each service page does the convincing, the transformation connection better, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't make it cloudy for people. They go there and they see all the information in one spot. And then even on the homepage, I mean, obviously we have a drop down in the menu, but even on the homepage, when you scroll down like a little more than halfway, it's got just those boxes, so that people can just pick which type of service they want, with nice big images and a little description too. So I think that works super well.
Okay. What about the about page, Zoe? The people, go there from the homepage usually to try to learn more about the photographer, to see if they trust them. Maybe they expect to see a location, some sort of history, but what would you say is more useful there?
Yeah, so I think about page is the thing that a lot of people really struggle to write, because it feels like almost, people think that they have to almost write their CV or, write about themselves, like a personal statement. And obviously on your website, that's not the case. The classic marketing cliche, which you've probably heard a million times, is your about page is not about you, it's about them. So I like to almost call it like an alignment page. So in terms of what to include, I really like a really wow factor testimonial that says something about you. That's the approach we took with John's page, actually. So the first bit of copy, his hero copy, was something about, John's just an awesome guy who takes awesome photos. That was kind of like the wow factor. Then because of his personality, then we like made a bit of a joke out of it, like, says an awesome client. And then you can kind of launch into your about page. So key things to include would be make sure that you have an intro bit of copy that's actually more about your client than you. Okay, so talking to them. So on John's, I think we used the idea that his ideal clients, feel a little bit worried when they're out there, having their photo taken. And we reflected that back as almost like John feels like that when he's writing his about page. So again, this is storytelling technique. Fact, no one adores having their photo taken. It's really important to get a really clear positioning of what you do and who for. So just really simple copy. I do this for these people and they get X or Y or Z. Location, super important to have on your about page, especially as most photographers are going to be showing up for local search. So having a specific bit of copy that says exactly where they're based. And then, depending on your positioning, on your messaging, on your brand voice, that style that you want to have, it's nice to have some fun sides. So it's nice to inject a little bit of your personality, not too much. We don't need to know what you do on your weekly schedule, but, things that you like, things that you don't like, that you think will actually align with your ideal client is great. Okay, really nice opportunity to share your values on your about page, but it doesn't mean that you have to go the old style of, values. My values are creativity, family, enjoy. You don't have to do it that way. You can be a bit more fun about it. You can just say it as it is. Okay. So here we've got with John's, we've got these things do show his values, the fun, the dad jokes, putting people at ease. Making sure that people have a good time, that they enjoy themselves. So that's all part of it there.
And
I think the most about pages can have a different approach depending on who you are and what you do, but I think that's generally kind of how I would advise to most people.
And I think we're touching upon a fear, like, John, you leaned into the whole fun aspect of the website, and you said that some of your audience is more serious, is more formal, more, corporate-y. Weren't you afraid that you would uh, alienate some of that, or is it just meant the ones that do relate to this type of style would be perfect clients, and so you're attracting the ideal client if it's a smaller subset?
Yeah, I think is the term lightning rod. I think the website is like my lightning rod, like if you're my people, come to me. If you're not, that's okay. Like even just yesterday, I sent my family pricing. So if you go to my website, you don't see the family pricing right away. You got to get to it a certain way. And I sent that to somebody and then they replied, okay, I'll find another photographer. And I was like, cool. That saves me all the trouble because you're not the person I want to work with. Like, I don't just do digital files. I work very hands-on and I want you to have big pictures in your house. So it's taken me a while to get there. If that's another piece of advice I can give to people, watching this, like figure out who your people are and work just with them because you'll be happier and you'll serve them better too, so they'll be happier and then they'll sing your praises and then they'll refer you more too.
Yeah, but it takes courage to do that, to be authentic,
yeah.
to not be scared of who you are and try to please everyone and end up being generic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean we're all scared of losing money for sure, but we also got to balance it and be happy too with the right clients too. So part of me was like, oh, he's gonna find another photographer, but then majority of me was like, all right, good, my technique is working, so it's good.
Yeah. Okay. Zoe, we can't end this webinar without mentioning SEO again, because photographers are rightfully or wrongfully sometimes obsessed with it, and it's what brings them traffic and therefore clients. It's not the only way, but it's a big priority for most. And the number one question I think photographer, or one of it, is writing copy for Google, the whole keyword stuffing. How do you write copy that will rank you well with the right phrases, but still sound natural?
Yeah, so I have a kind of a 3-step process, which I am happy to share. And I think this is the best way to kind of balance the natural human creative side and the technical SEO, pleasing the Google bot side. So my first bit of advice would be, step 1, go do your keyword research, use Keyword Planner, use, I really like Ubersuggest, but obviously you have to pay for that, and lots of tools out there. But yeah, Keyword Planner, Ubersuggest, anything like that, do your keyword research, identify what is ranking, what's competitive, what is easier to rank for, so less competitive, what's higher, and what you want to be ranking for. So know that before you start writing any copy. Step 2, that list, that information that you found and you pulled off, don't look at it, put it away. You've seen it, it's in your mind. Write your copy authentically. Don't write it with your keywords in sight. And then step 3, bring back that list, all your keyword research, read through your copy and think to yourself, really think, where naturally can I put keywords in here that's actually going to enhance the copy? Because what you will find from an editing point of view is there are certain sentences and phrases and points in your copy that actually will benefit with you changing something like it into the actual word, or changing a sentence round, or changing a heading round to make it clearer. And actually that makes it better for the human and for SEO. And that's kind of the best way to get a balance. But also, I would argue it usually is better copy if you do it that way anyway.
And don't forget that even if you're not very proficient at it, or you don't write perfect copy, and you don't hire a copywriter for any reason, you should add usually more content to the website. You have to have the hero message on the homepage that's often missing. You need to have the SEO tags there. You need to have proper heading tags on all your pages, H1 tags. Usually it's a lack of content on photography websites more often than too much content, or it sounding fake or something like that.
Yeah, I think then a good guideline is to aim for around 350 words per page, 350 to 500. But I'm always a bit cautious when I say things like that, because 350 to 500 words of rubbish in a big block of text won't do you any favors. But you know, if you're thinking, right, I need to really put some work into my copy and I'm going to DIY it, then that is a kind of a good kind of point to aim for.
Okay, we invite anyone here live to type in any questions in the Zoom chat. We'll be happy to answer in these final minutes. In the meantime, I have a few questions ready from the previous days, which are related to copywriting. Maybe I'll send those over to you, Zoe. One person asked if they should write in the first person or third person, which I think we covered that a bit. It's just about being genuine. What's your take?
Yeah. The simplest answer is, yeah, it's about being genuine. So if you are a one-man band, a micro business, and it's just you and you're doing the photography, then stick to I. If you are a team, you know, last year I worked with a portrait studio that had multiple photographers within their studio, then obviously they spoke in the second, in the plural first person. So it's as simple as that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and someone else asked, and I quote, "I have a different problem. I write too much. I'm too verbose and I can't edit it down. Any tips?"
Oh yeah, and you know what, I can see why that is really hard, because you want to get everything in and you don't want to miss anything out. My biggest tip would be to ask yourself, is this strictly helpful for my ideal client where they are right now? So it's like I said about putting in like random buttons, similar kind of process. If you're reading your copy and thinking, actually, do they need to know that bit of information right now? Or can you take it out, and maybe put it somewhere else on the website. There's a phrase, I love these phrases, I'm such a cliche. It's don't kill your darlings. Okay, and I don't know if that's just a British phrase or whatever, but yeah, don't kill your darlings. And essentially all these little bits of text when you're editing out because you think, oh, you know what, it's actually too much, maybe they could go somewhere else. Don't delete them, put them in another document, put them somewhere else. And then what you might find is that they're really useful for things like writing FAQs, which are also really good for SEO.
Okay, so repurposing that for some other places.
Yeah.
John, I think this is related to editing down your portfolio. When you showcase a few images for a service, your best of work, how do you kill your darlings to cut it down from hundreds, thousands of images to choose 20? You're too close to them. You're emotionally attached to some photos. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like all of my photos have a story behind them, so I'm attached to them. But I think that's where like having your help, you know, you picked all the images that ended up going on the website, and you know, in what order. And like I said, that picture of Sean, you know, you picked the same picture. He's like super expressive, and then just a smiley picture. So I think not having a committee, but having somebody help you do that, narrow it down.
Yeah,
Also newer,
fast
fresher
trends.
stuff, like I have some older pictures on there just because they're solid, but I think always showing your fresher stuff is a good idea too.
That's actually a good question, maybe to Zoe as well. Do people need to freshen up the website, the copywriting? I know you can, you know, the homepage, you can bring in fresh blog posts or anything like that. But when do you feel you need to change something? Is it just when the business changes or more often?
Honestly, businesses evolve all the time. So I would usually recommend checking over your copy really thoroughly, like ideally once a quarter, but let's be realistic, we're really busy. So once every 6 months, just kind of going through it and making sure that your message is still resonating with what you're trying to achieve. You know, obviously this is a massive subject in itself, but you have business goals, you have marketing goals, and your messaging is going to feed into that. So if you're, you know, at the start of the year, your business goal was to get more people signing up for headshot photography, but then by July you've evolved more into doing events, you know, you're going to be looking over maybe your messaging and what you want to bring forward, and are there any bits that you want to bring forward onto your homepage. So it's really just putting that time in your diary to sit down with your website. You know, it could be as little as an hour and going through it and thinking, is this still relevant? Is this still resonating?
Okay. One final question I have here, I think this is for you, Zoe. Where do I start with SEO if I've never prioritized it?
Okay, so obviously the ideal answer would be new website, new copy, let's get it all right. But I know that that's not always practical. So what I think it would be about doing is really getting an understanding of what you actually want to show up for. You know, it's all right saying, well, I'm a newborn photographer, I'm a maternity photographer, that's what I want to show up for. But there's all these kind of other phrases, especially in your geographical area, that you could show up for. So it's about getting an understanding of that, and then getting the foundations of your website right. So if you've never touched SEO before and you've just got some copy and you've got a website, but you want to start thinking about SEO, it's about making sure that you've got a clear header 1 tag. So that is a title for each page. It's about making sure that your title tags and your meta descriptions are filled out. It's about making sure that you have alt tags. So they are, you know, the bits of copy that describe what your images are. So it's about getting all those foundations right. Don't just dive into blogging and think, right, everyone says I should blog because that's what's going to help me rank. It's about getting your website right first, which I appreciate in a few minutes. It sounds like a lot, but yeah, getting the basics right, the foundations right is the absolute place to start.
Well, working with someone like you, Zoe, means that they would handle some SEO aspects right from the get-go before building the website through all of those SEO tags and heading tags and all of that.
Absolutely.
And not building the website design, hiring someone like me, and then trying to add on top. So it's not the right way.
Yeah.
Can I chime in there too?
Sure.
So before I started working with both of you, I put together a Google Doc too, and you know, I had like my competitors, websites, and then like ideal people that are huge in the industry, and I listed a bunch of keywords and stuff too, you know, so just did all that research ahead of time, you know, for you to make your job easier. So I think that's very important to figure that out. And like you said, there's so many different ways to say maternity photography, you know, so that's where you know, AI can help you, you know, think of those different things too. There's different websites out there that can help you see what your competitors are ranking for and figure that out.
Yeah, so ideally doing some of that keyword research, or at least brainstorming, ideation, and at the very, very least, knowing what your business is all about and what you want to work on. Sometimes that's vague too. Okay, this was awesome. I think it's a good point to end on here. Anyone watching this, if you have any other questions, both Zoe and I are welcome to answering any and all questions. Maybe John, you have questions for John. Ask him his real opinion about working with us. Shoot him an email. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can find our website. So this is my web design website, foregroundweb.com. You can see all the services I have here for working exclusively with photographers. Zoe's website, this is yours. Beautiful new website. I think you just relaunched it recently, zoeconnected.com. So you can dive here to see more and see what Zoe's work is all about. John, we've seen your website already, so people can explore it further.
Too much. We've seen it too much.
Okay, so this was a pleasure. John, thank you for accepting the invitation.
Absolutely.
And Zoe, it was a pleasure. And yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you everybody for watching. It's been a really great webinar. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.